hello and good luck. 6 to Midnight, sweet name. Oi, sad life. We're gonna have to mulligan this guy, because even though one land gets us into Winged Steed Rider, and if it's a forest, we're shortly into Leaf Crown Dryad range. We can't play any of our cards right now. And we are on the draw, so that is helpful, and our opponent already mulled. This is even worse. Oi. Well, this is actually the best stand that we've seen so far, but when against a red opponent, this is going to be hard to bounce back from. Well, we're going to start the process. Here we go! I guess we're not super behind on cards, since my opponent did do one mull and we were on the draw, so that's kind of happy. And we have a nice follow-up to our first play. My opponent is stuck on one land. That helps us buy some time, so maybe we have an even match here. Opponent's still stuck on lands. Definitely just going to run out this dude so we can start getting the beats on. My opponent plays a second land, Magma Jets or something. That's going to be a bummer, but we do have follow-ups, so there you go. Chrome Crusader, don't care about at all. Nemesis is very good. I'm going to be greedy and save the Alciad to bestow onto the Winged Steed Rider, especially because my opponent's stuck on land. So we're just going to run this guy out. My opponent's chilling for a second, it would seem. Play our guy. F6 and attack. Next turn, if we draw a land, we have a Nemesis of Mortals while my opponent's stuck on 2 lands, assuming my opponent even gets a land out. If we don't draw land, we draw action, we have a 5/5 Flying Vigilance, Awesomeness in the air. So, despite this nasty mull, we were a little bit more fortunate in how the mulls went. It looks like my opponent stayed a little greedy, though, having kept a 1-land hand with only 1 mull on the draw, whereas we realized we could not do such things with our deck. Opponent's still stuck on 1. Ooh, this is going to hurt. Let's see what else my opponent's playing. Could argue to concede here and not show me anything. I don't think that's particularly amazing. Ooh, another white-red drafter here. Alright, yeah. Very easy decision-making. Get the beats on. And we have nice follow-up plays in the near future, and yeah, now my opponent's just like, this is never happening. Cool. So not really a game. Everyone mulled down. I was just a tad bit luckier. Though I'd be curious to see what my opponent kept, because that sounded like a pretty sketchy keep. But if my opponent has a traditional red-white deck, then that could be very good. I'm going to keep this Ray of Dissolution up, because considering the colors I did see from my opponent, there's probably going to be a decent target. You know, Dragon Mantles and whatnot. And the only other card to bring in would be the other Subtussing Griffin. I don't want to bring in my other 2-drops. My 2-drops are already way better. So I actually like my deck currently on the minimum amount that we've seen from my opponent. Okay, a pretty weak hand, arguable to mull against an aggressive deck, but the Mistcutter Hydra can come down if we need to, and we have a pretty good curve, so we should be drawing into some action here. And ultimately, I mean, if you have lands and you have spells, I'm not too stoked. So my opponent seems to have another not aggressive start, which is absolutely amazing for us. We'll lead off with our plains. Really just want to draw a 2 or a 3 or 4 drop or something. Cavalry Pegasus is fine. More lands helps us get to the cards that we do have. We'll take our 1. See what my opponent's follow-up is. Going to ban another. We're going to start taking some damage here. That's going to be hard for us to deal with. Oh, and a Savage Surge, that is not awesome. I'll keep the Ray of Disillusion up. I don't want to just play the Mistcutter Hydra as a 2-2 yet. I think we might have to wait one more turn before that's the game plan. I might be wrong about that. But if an Ordeal or something comes down and all I have is a 2-2 to block, then the Mistcutter Hydra was wasted, and I mean, I can't do anything about how much damage is coming through. Whereas at least if an Ordeal does come down, chosen by Heliod, not particularly awesome. I probably will just Ray of Disillusion it, just to cast my mana. That could be really bad too. At least it's not targeting something more relevant, it's just allowing my opponent to cycle a wee bit. Yeah, I'm going to save the Ray of Dissolution, even though it sucks, but it's not going to do anything against this Laguna Band Elder relevant. Oi. Alright, so do I want a 3-3 online? No. We're going to go down to 11 or more here, but we have a little bit of life gain. I really want to save this at least for a 4-4. That is something that I will happily Ray of Disillusion. Especially now that there's even more attacks coming through. Let's see if my opponent wants to spend some time pumping the Dragon Mantle. Pump, pump. One pump will get me to do the Ray. I could get greedy and wait for the second pump. But my opponent may not be wanting to do the second pump. Might just want to play land, or play a spell or something. So. Okay, that's weird. Oh, I see. So I miscalculated how that actually worked. Which is a bummer. Hey, we're starting to have some cards here. So, what do I want to do? Kind of like the idea of playing out the Observant Alciad with Savage Surge backup, and then I have a 4-4 that can block the Laguna Ban Elder with the trick. Probably draw out my opponent's trick, so that may not be awesome. Or I could just go ahead and play the Mistcutter Hydra, which will eat it. I'll follow up Evangel of Heliod plus Observant Alciad. Yeah, I think we just played the Mistcutter Hydra now. I am not attacking because I'm on defense. And then this will really show us if there's a combat trick in hand. I'm not going to be able to play around it because I don't want to go down to 8. But we'll eat the combat trick. We'll have the Alciad up next. Maybe an Evangel if that's what I want to play right now. But I kind of like the idea of having the Observant Alciad plus a Savage Surge. Or we just still take damage. But at least there's no combat trick, right? Taking 4 though, but we will have good defense. I think this means I do want to play the Evangel out. We're taking a little bit in the air, which is very worrisome. I need a reach dude somewhat in the near future. Arena Athlete, ooh. Definitely want my Evangel out. Am I attacking with the Mistcutter Hydra? No, I just need as many blockers as possible. If something targets the Arena Athlete, yeah, it's probably going to take out the Mistcutter Hydra for blocks, but I can't afford to, even though I want to be putting 4 points of damage on to my opponent, I can't afford to do it, even though I'm getting 2 little dorky blockers here. I need to find a reach guy. That's what needs to happen. For sure. Alright. And I have 7 turns to do so, although there's probably some kind of pump or trick or something that makes this Pegasus better. And the Arena Athlete gets to bash in for 3, actually. I forgot about that. Ouch. I basically need to draw an answer this turn, because I'm going to go down to 5, if not more, with a pump. And I need to get rid of this Cavalry Pegasus now. Yep. Now the odds are I'm just way too far behind to make this relevant. I have definitely outs in my deck. And that's one of them, so that's cool. How do I want to do this? The issue is Arena Athlete is going to be able to tap down whichever reach guy I have, but I can't control that anyway. 1, 2, 3, 4, plus 3 backup. So I guess we just put it on the Evangel of Heliod. I could put it on a soldier token because it's something that I care the least amount about, but at the same time, I think I just need to have a nice, decent block dude here. Wish I had a God's Willing. That'd be pretty cool. Aw, bummer. Looks like I have to waste my Savage Surge. And that could be the game, because now I can't play the Alciad, which I was just kind of doing the math to see if that was something I needed to do. And if my opponent has a way to target, taking 3 in the air, and then yeah, I have not awesome blocks, but then it doesn't mean the Evangel is the one that has to be blocked, so I guess that's okay. Still in a really precarious position. Anything to target that Arena Athlete probably pumps it as well. And if it's +2 or whatever, then we're just kind of screwed. Should have left my planes open, I just realized. To suggest God's Willing. I think it's going to matter, but definitely a misplay. Or maybe I can save face and suggest that this was me bluffing right now, the God's Willing in my hand, or my possible draw. What I mean is if I were to draw God's Willing this turn, my opponent might think that I don't have it. I should just F6 here. There's nothing for a single green that matters in this format. And here my opponent goes with the full-ons Ataxies. Well, now that's odd. Very odd. So I take 1 for sure. Oh, here we go. I see. I forgot this is a human as well. Nice move. I was like, I'm really confused. I forgot the Crone Hoplite is a human. So yeah. What's that? Don't know why. Oh, hey, God's Willing! Okay. So possibly could have mulled that last game to have done better. I kept that hand that didn't have a whole lot of action, but I was really worried about moving down. We've seen some more enchantments, not particularly worth a second Ray of Dissolution yet, but at the same time, if what I need to do is just gain life and stay alive, I should be okay cutting like the a second Evangel of Heliod, and lowering the curve and just having more relevant cards. Could take out this Observant Alciad, which is doing a lot less than the Evangel, but I think for now I'll just keep the second data. We have enough late game. I don't need the second Evangel of Heliod, so that's what we're going to do. I do want to play first against my opponent, and this time we actually have a little bit of a better keep with an Elia's Disciple that's for sure coming out on turn 4, and I'm not going to mulligan this. Very mediocre hand, definitely not the nuts, and if my opponent has the nuts, then we're going to be in some trouble, but we're cool. And I don't want the Hopeful Eidolon on turn 1, as always. If it becomes dire, then I'll deal with it. No red 1-drop is always good. Leaf Crown Dryad for turn 2 is very good. Get that guy out right now. Spark Jolt to my face? That seems really weird. That's very aggressive. What does my opponent have? Maybe opponent just wanted to scry for another land? I have no idea. That is odd. Super duper odd, in fact. Well, there's our second Ray of Dissolution. Do I want to waste my turn with a Feral Invocation? It's kind of nice putting the 4/4 in the Leaf Crown Drag. It gets out of removal spells for a while, and I do get a bash in. But I think it's actually just better to keep up my defense. I might just at end of turn do a Feral Invocation at the end of my opponent's turn in order to just have another life point gain, because life is kind of a big deal in this matchup. Problem is, if I do a Feral Invocation after a block, which my opponent's willing to do, there could be another combat trick, so my opponent probably wants to trade. Ooh, Wingsteed Rider. That's scary. I really want to protect my Leaf Crown Dryad now. My opponent did tap out, which is awesome. So we are going to go ahead. It's great to have a 4/4 reach against Wingsteed Rider, and I do want to kill this. So that is my opponent playing a little too quickly and rudely, because I might have just taken that damage otherwise. Ooh, Nessian Asp. Sadly, there is no other land for us. And I think if my opponent's being this aggressive, I want to attack, right? Is that correct? Because now I'm in the race lead position, and we've kind of already gotten a lot of cards on my opponent's hand. Could be a very easy 4/4 or something big coming through next turn, though. But until my opponent shows that to me, I'm going to take my 4 points of damage to get through. We also have this Hopeful Eidolon to get back in the game and Nessian Asp for later, so we may not get too far behind a Wingsteed Rider. And we might be able to put enough pressure on my opponent in order to make it relevant enough. Any enchantment that triggers the Wingsteed Rider is going to be immediately Ray of Disillusioned. Especially an Ordeal of Perforos, for sure. So that resolves. And then definitely before attacks, we're killing that guy. Can't let that happen. This is grand. There could be protection from green to make this a 4/4 and then block. I'm tempted just to put the Hopeful Eidolon then. Yeah, I'm going to put the Hopeful Eidolon on to make the 5/5 attack and life gain because of protection from green. Normally I'd want to have the Leah's Disciple out, but this will be fine. That life gain will be a really nice cushion against what my opponent has. Chosen by Heliod, much less worrisome. Even though my opponent could choose to start keeping some blocks available. Here, there's another issue with a God's Willing to pump this to a 5/5. But I think we go for it here. We'll do the Ray of Dissolution, see if God Willing comes down. Could have been a good bait by my opponent. Yep, there it is. Alright, so that's definitely a bummer. We got our Hopeful Eidolon. We are very ahead in terms of life. Problem is we're not that far ahead on the board to where we're ever going to really be able to sail out this deal. Next turn, yes, we have a Nessian Asp, and then we'll have an Elia's Disciple to continue getting life, but if my opponent draws lands, well, my opponent wants to start doing a life hit here, so it's probably a follow-up play, I presume. I mean, still 5 for 2 is still fine. That's going to be good. No attacks. And there's a whole lot that my opponent can have, having been stuck on 3 lands, that as soon as that next land comes down, which I assume is happening this turn, if not in the next turn, to where this 5 points in the air is going to be pretty nasty. Okay, so opponents didn't draw land, which is good. We might still be able to... Ooh, favorite hoplite? Okay, there's some nasty, scary things happening here. Chronicler of Heroes is good, even though we don't have any +1/+1 counters yet. Oh, we'll play it first, though. Definitely bashing in with Nessian Asp, and just trying to win this race some way, somehow. We do have more pressure to be put on the board, so that's nice. But it's going to be super close. I do think this Nylea's Disciple is going to be key in helping with that. That's awesome, because my opponent doesn't get to cast like a Divine Verdict or do something else, and even though Scrying will really help, I mean, it's still a turn where my opponent does not have mana to do much. Mind you, this Wingsteed Rider can start playing the defensive game and hold back a lot, but if I draw one more land, the Nessian Asp will be able to punch through a bunch of damage. Okay, so my opponent's looking to get aggressive here. How much damage is that? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 points. So down to 8. My opponent's not attacking with everything because the crackback is lethal. Ah, I see. Do I want to make this trade here? I have a 3/3 follow-up. If I attack in 1, 2, 3, my opponent only has a God's Willing up, so nothing kills the Asp, goes down to 4. This guy has to be blocked, though. I think I just take 8 here, to be honest. I'm actually very okay with that. Because I'm going to be attacking... Again, this is a race, so we're going to be attacking with a Chronicler, which will eat one of these dudes. Possibly something could... You know, it could eat a card if there's a pump, or I think really only God's Willing exists. Could get a double block on, but that doesn't really matter, I think. And I think I'd rather have a bunch of these 1/1s than the Nylea's Disciple and that extra 1 point of life. Because now we only have to worry about the Wingsteed Rider, which is a 3-turn clock, and we have chump blocks for days, and my opponent's going to go down 3 here, so we have a lot that has to happen, and my opponent would have to do a double block and like a God's Willing or something to get anything relevant. It's probably better to keep the God's Willing for these other things. And with my opponent being down to 3... Oh, my opponent's just jumping? That's grand. Titan Strength's the only thing that kills the Asp, and my opponent doesn't have red up. Okay, clearing the way is very nice. Mind you, again, my opponent now gets to untap with 4, so there is some issue with this Wingsteed Rider, but my opponent attacks in with Wingsteed Rider. There's some major, major damage. coming back. I was more worried about the Hopeful Eidolon coming out of the Winged Steed Rider. Going down to 4 here, I can't do anything about. Oh, Vigilance. That is kind of key. Savage Surge is good. Especially because I can play my Nylea's Disciple first. Now, if I tack in with everything, Asp gets eaten. Not good. This guy probably gets chump blocked, and then there's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 damage through. Is there any other way for my opponent to block? No, so we have the win here with the Savage Surge. I'm not missing anything about that, right? Correct. And my opponent's tapped out, which is why we're making this. If my opponent was not, then we wouldn't have the win in hand. Interesting blocks, but I guess it doesn't really matter either way. And there we are. GG's. Alright, it's been kind of fun playing this deck, considering having to kind of think about how creatures are really my only way for interacting, and having to kind of stressfully get around big monsters like this when I know that my deck, for the most part, doesn't have strong ways to interact with an opponent. Let's see how this performs in the finals.